Hello, I am Reverend Irene Smith, and I'd like to welcome you to Generationally Speaking. Here at the table, we come and we discuss life issues, no matter what they might be. As we sit at the table with each generation, we all learn, we all grow, we all are inspired. Generationally Speaking.
And some of the comments that I've heard, Reverend Smith, about other people's children, about children that we don't embrace, I can't even repeat many of the things that I've heard. And I think, and I often challenge educators, would you say that if that parent was standing right by you? I don't think so. Would you call, Johnny's mom and tell her what you think about him? I don't think so. It's really our minds. It is lack of treating our organizations as really their businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses, where young people should come in with one set of competencies and come out with another and be able to demonstrate those competencies through our assessment processes. And we have not done well at creating systems. Some students do well in our systems, right? Those are the ones that come reading, those are the ones whose parents have invested all that into them, and they come to us without not really requiring much more. I'm talking about all students, right? And we haven't done well as educational systems in making sure that all students have access to powerful teachers, powerful learning experience at all times. So I would say those are the two things: systemic injustice, disorganization, lack of preparing our systems to educate all students, and mindset of the educators.
We see children who come into the school system excited, kindergarten and then first grade. They are so excited about learning, especially when I look at children of color. But something happens in fourth grade. I don't know what, being around a lot of children as I have, but something happens at fourth grade that children stop having that desire, that quest to learn. They get turned off. Maybe Johnny doesn't read so well. Maybe can't get that math. So, what is it that a parent can do to make sure that they can keep that fire of learning for their children?
Excellent question. Every single year when your child gets a teacher, go in, introduce yourself to that teacher, and let that teacher know what your expectations are for your child, and be in constant communication with that teacher. Now, when I've said this to people, typically we do really well through elementary school, right? We're in communication with that elementary school teacher. But when it comes to middle school and high school, we fall off a little bit. Our kids are older and we can, communicate with the school through our children, we think. But I would suggest it's at middle school and high school when it gets even more critical that there is that regular communication with the family. And there's no excuse now. We can text message, we can email, we can phone call, we can show up. It is absolutely critical. And why? Because if the educator and the parent are connected, then there's something powerful that happens for the student. The student then knows these individuals are joined at the hip and they are working toward my success. Mm-hmm. If the student knows that there is no connection, especially when it comes to middle or high school, then that's where the surprises come in. You get the report card and there's F's on the report card, and the parent goes, what happened? He told me everything was okay. And so really that communication between the school system and the family is key. And I think in addition, one of the things that has happened is that, our educational system has not done well at preparing our young people for really the rigor that is the new work world, technology, coding, those things. And so really making sure that young people have the tools that they need to learn how to be competitive in the new work world. And in our charter school, we actually add not only coding, we want our students to be literate in English for sure, completely literate in English, but also literate in Spanish. California, is really largely a Spanish speaking state. And then coding, right? The language of the computer, making sure that our young people have what they need to totally understand this world of technology and the connectivity there too. And so, again, parents need to make sure that young people are really not just video games, monitor their time more wisely. How many video games, how many hours do you really need to spend on video games? Making sure they're doing learning games and things that will help stretch their brain. One parent just asked me, I just signed up a parent for the school, and she asked me, what can I be doing during the summer with my daughter? The parent happens to be in law school. I said, you are learning to analyze text at the highest level. Share that with your daughter. Right? Because Reverend Smith, when it comes to these assessments, a lot of people will say, well, our kids just can't pass assessments. Well, in order to get to the four-year colleges that we want them to go to, they're going to have to pass some high-level assessments. And if they can read and analyze text at high levels, that prepares them to pass the assessment. It's no longer really about a certain level of memorization of certain facts and things like that. No, it's more about looking at the text, looking at what the question is asking you, making a correct analysis of the question, and then answering it appropriately. That's what they want our young people to know and be able to do. It's no longer necessarily about reading fictional stories and talking about plot and so on. It's more about reading technical handbooks and the ability to apply that, right? So that when young people get into high school and then graduate, then they'll be able to take some of these STEM jobs. What has happened in the recent past is that we've had to recruit from outside of the country. That's fine. We can go to China and go to India and go to these different places where they are preparing young people to take these positions. But why? When we have so many brilliant young people right here in the States, we can do a combination of those things and really make sure that our young people, when they come out of high school, are ready to go and work for the Google or create their own tech firms or, whatever, through that competency and that analytical ability that I talked about.
So it's important for parents to stay connected with their children all the way through school, from kindergarten all the way through, and that when the parent sees a problem, that I can recall having my children to read to me, and they would be like, "What are you going to read?" I said, "Well, get the dictionary." What's in the dictionary? That's plenty of things. I would have them to read to me from the dictionary. Not that I wanted them to read the dictionary. I was just checking to see how fluent their reading was.
Yes.
And then I would sort of ask them questions as we went along about what did it say now? What was that? It for them, they thought probably I was a little off. I just wanted to make sure that not only could they read, but they had an understanding. So, I know that parents are so busy. We have parents who are working 2 and 3 jobs, just trying to keep food on the table. Yes. We have parents who leave home before the sun comes up, and they they get back home once the sun, is set. We have parents who, are English may not be their native language, and they have this barrier. But I hear you saying to parents, like, even with all of these struggles that you have to go through, you have to make sure that you keep your child first and foremost and stay connected, even if it means on your break, on your lunch hour, making that telephone call or setting up a telephone situation or meeting with your child's teacher, on a certain day, certain time, just so you can stay connected. So, I thank you for sharing that. Now, anybody who has moved from teacher to superintendent, they said, I'm going to retire out here. I'm good. This is good for me. I'm after this, I'm not going to be bothered with no more students. I'm going to go ahead and just enjoy life. But you decided, after reaching the pinnacle, what they would say, you decided, no. There's another giant leap that I'm going to make. And you, along with some others, decided, and you all established the elite school. So talk to us about how you made that decision, because that's a big decision. And I mean, it involves, finances and finding a place and recruiting students, and not just students, but teachers and people who will buy in to the mission that's in your heart.
Yes. So excellent question. So, the life of a superintendent is typically 3 to 5 years. And so I lasted in my superintendency 6+ years. And then there were some political wins that I won't talk about, but it ended up, they ended my contract early in Vallejo. And so it was interesting. Again, another one of the times when God speaks to you through others, through angels. I was at a dinner party, and I met a young lady that I had never met before. And she was like, "You're Dr. Bishop?" I said, "Yes, I am." I wasn't quite sure where she was going with that question. And she said, "I work at the XYZ Foster Center in Vallejo. And so we house foster youth that attend Vallejo schools." And she said, "There is one of your students that said to me, if they did that to Dr. Bishop, then there's absolutely no hope for me. That if they, with all of her education, if she can experience that kind of treatment, then there's no hope. I might as well give up now. I can't, I won't be able to compete with systems that do these things to us." And, at that time, I had been thinking about the charter school. I wasn't quite sure yet that I was going to do it. I was considering some different other opportunities, whether they be other superintendencies out of state, or, I was just kind of thinking about what my next move was going to be. But when that young person who I'd never met said that to me, that solidified, okay, that plan that you have for that school must go forward. And the vision became even clearer in that, the students of Vallejo and the parents of Vallejo had embraced all of the reforms that we had brought to bear on the city. And we wanted to create a laboratory setting for those things. So all of those best practices and more would be at work within our elite school context. And so we began to write the charter petition. We got 3 no's, Reverend Smith, and that we finally got our yes. And we're ending our 3rd year of operation now.
Wow.
Again, as I stated, we wrote the petition so that we could ensure that our young people are competitive. If you drive through Vallejo, you'll find a city that is beautiful right by the water, but there are a lot of empty storefront spaces. that will eventually be occupied because of our vision. Our vision is to create global entrepreneurs and leaders.
Right.
And to really ensure that our young people not only can come out and go to the most, coveted four-year universities in the world, but also to ensure that they then come back and contribute to their community, whether they open their own, tech firm, whatever it is that they've decided they're going to open it right there in Vallejo and become job creators. And in addition, that every young person, again, graduate having some Spanish under their belt and being able to be conversant and literate in Spanish. Why is that important? I don't know about you, Reverend Smith, but I know that when I went to high school, very good student, always did what I was told, began taking Spanish in the 9th grade and took it all the way through high school. Loved my Spanish teacher. She was absolutely amazing. However, Reverend Smith, when it comes to speaking Spanish, I break out in a sweat. I get so afraid that I'm going to mispronounce a word because the research tells us that it's really just too late by that time to really introduce a new language to a young person. So we start at kindergarten, and all of our students learn English and Spanish, whether it's in a world language context where they have the majority of their day in English and they get some Spanish, or whether it is in a dual language context where they're immersed in the Spanish language, and then they back off of the Spanish language and introduce English throughout the grades more in a more pronounced fashion.
I'm glad you brought that up, because as we travel, as you travel globally, you find out that America really is the only place where we just have English. Everybody else is bilingual, trilingual. And when we go travel, we expect everybody to speak English and you meet people, and English is not even their native language, but they from, like you said, from very a young age, they've been taught. And so I'm glad to hear that.
Yes. And, we have been able to attract some teachers from out of the country because the teacher pipeline, speaking of the science technology pipeline, the teacher pipeline is also pretty dry in the United States as well. So we have teachers from the Dominican Republic. We have teachers from the Cameroon. We have a teacher that we just got from the Cameroon that, like you said, he speaks English, French, and his native language fluently. These teachers from the Dominican Republic come with English and Spanish. Some of them have been English teachers in their own country. And it's just amazing that we are so behind the times when it comes to multilingualism. And so our school is an answer to that. And it also honors and affirms those that bring Spanish as a primary language into our school, and then they have a safe place to then learn English as well.
So, how do you keep your students inspired? Because I know that, students come from a variety of backgrounds and struggles that you don't always see, they don't always express it. But as you get to know that student, you find out that perhaps they're homeless. As you get to know that student, you find out that they're living in an environment which does not lend itself to education. How do you keep those students inspired, that they keep coming and they keep coming, trusting and believing that they can change their family dynamics and their life as well?
So we are a full service community school, which simply means that we understand that the student is a whole being. They're not just an academic being, they're a whole being. And that means that they have to have their primary needs met before they can ever focus on academics, right? If a child is hungry or sleepy or thinking about where they're going to sleep the next night, then they're not focused on the academic instruction that we are bringing to bear. And so we provide support for those young people. That's become even more pronounced in the world of COVID-19, right, over the last 2 years. We provide support for families. So if there's a family that is struggling with homelessness, or they call it the unhoused here in California, then we provide referrals and support for families to get what they need to find a place to be, whether it's temporarily or sometimes permanently. It's been interesting during COVID-19, Reverend Smith, that somehow California found a way to feed all of its children.
Wow.
And, whereas in the past, it has been the case that students have to apply for free and reduced lunch. This year, that was waived. And so all students had the opportunity to eat breakfast and lunch and a snack at school. That was huge. That was huge. We distributed a lot of food over the last year and a half, almost 2 years. So again, going back to really the premise of students are whole beings, we figure out what's happening for students, especially students who are not meeting the grade level standards. And if there are any gaps to be filled, we try to fill them through referrals and support services and dedicated staff to do that. And we feel like we do a pretty good job. The issues are very complex, so sometimes it's very difficult for us to do that, but we certainly give it our best shot.
Wow, that's wonderful. As you look at, you mentioned COVID, and I know with the public schools, they supplied all their students with some type of laptop or iPad or something that they could stay connected. What did you all do at Elite to face COVID, especially as a charter school?
It was fascinating. So we opened the year that the schools had to close based on COVID. And so we had not distributed all of our computers. So we found out we needed to close our doors on Thursdays, and our students came in to get packets on Monday. We went to just literally paper, pencil packets that students would complete and return every 2 weeks. It has forced us. Last year, we went ahead and got computers for all of our young people. It's forced us to make those investments. We had planned absolutely to have one-on-one computers. We were just so new, we hadn't gotten quite to that vision yet. But what I love about it is we've been forced to do it, right? Every student really should have a computer. If we're saying we want them to be literate in computers, well, they should have access to one. What we learned is that there are some divides as it relates to Wi-Fi access for our families. So we were able to apply for and get some Wi-Fi hotspots for our families to fill those gaps. But it's been fascinating, and it's accelerated our ability to serve our families. It's gotten us organized as a school in a different way around Google Classroom, making sure that, we have all of those resources available to families. You mentioned, the busy mom and dad. Well, how about the mom and dad that really didn't do well in school and are not equipped to support their baby, right? So through the Google Classroom and through some of these learning and technology games, we can just say, Mrs. Brown, just have Johnny sign on to X and work on that for half an hour during the summer so that he can, work on whatever literacy skill he is lacking. So I really feel like, yes, there have been a lot of hard things about COVID, a lot of difficulty that we've all faced in our own families and communities. But I'm also thinking, when we think about the glass being half full, some of the good things that we were able to gather, and that's really organizing around technology, making sure that there's more access and those things, which we've carried over into this year and beyond.
So Elite Charter School, it's at what grade levels does it cover?
So we go all the way from transitional kindergarten, which is 4 turning 5, and we this year will graduate our first class. So we go all the way to 12th grade.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That is wonderful.
Yes, we're excited.
Wonderful. So you have they talk about a pipeline. You all have created a pipeline that parents can put their children in and watch them matriculate and grow and mature and walk across the stage. Well, that's wonderful. I mean, that's just such a success when you look at these students. Wow. I mean,
we're thrilled, and we're setting it up so that our young people will graduate with 2 years of community college met as well. So our high school students have already enrolled in community college and are taking many of them classes this summer. And our expectation is that they'll have their AA degree or some special certificate as they graduate high school as well.
So do you work with the students? At what grade level do you start working for your students with scholarships and those kinds of funds to help them? Or you have any connection with the colleges, local colleges there to help them, to the student to move right on into college without having to worry so much about the financial piece?
For sure. So, as you know, and in California, the community college is free to young people who get free and reduced lunch. And about 60% of our students fall into that category. We also have a college preparatory program that our 9th through 12th graders participate in. It's called the Willie B. Atkins program. And they start in 9th grade working on personal statements, working on all of those things that they'll need in order to apply for those four-year universities and for those scholarships. They start that early as well. As you know, the requirements have changed as well with regard to what we must provide as parents when it comes to financial aid and or loans or grants that are available through the state and federal government. And so we do parent workshops to make sure that they know what it is that they need to do. Have you filed your taxes? Do you have all of your financial paperwork in order so that when, people come calling, it's not you that's in the way of those grants for your young person. So that preparation, luckily, again, we start when the students are 4. That preparation starts right around, ideally the 8th grade. And then they have really those 4 years of high school to get it together and be ready to matriculate. So we're excited about seeing what will happen for the young people that go through our system.
So when you look at your student body, what is the composition?
So our student body demographic is about 60% Black students. It is about 30% Hispanic Latino students, mostly Mexican American. And the rest is a mix of Filipino, Native American, Asian, and white.
So are students, I'm not sure how to ask this, but are students bused? Are they catch public transportation? I'm not sure how does that work?
Good question. We are a public school. We do not have busing though. So we're a public choice school. And so parents will drop their students off. Students catch the bus. We have discounted bus passes. They walk. And there's some carpooling going on from other cities. We've been able to attract some students from outside of Vallejo as well, just because of the program.
And are they uniformed? Are students able to wear whatever they want?
They wear uniforms from TK all the way through high school.
And can you express why you believe that uniforms are essential in learning versus?
Excellent question. I actually wear the uniform every day as well. I don't have to get up and think about what I'm going to wear and match anything. I'm getting myself together to go to work. And going to work means I'm putting on my uniform. And it reduces time. It reduces competition for young people. It reduces bullying. None of that happens because everybody comes to school looking the same.